Hey, welcome to the Everyday Immunity Podcast, a place where we talk about different ways to boost the immune system naturally each and every day. I'm your host, Alicia Rosati of Rosati Nutrition. What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Alicia Rosati, and I am so stoked that you are here today with me for this episode. If you couldn't tell already by the title, we are talking all things DNA, genetics, nutrigenomics, and I know I'm throwing a lot of big terms out there, but fear not, I'm going to explain it and we're going to go through this step by step so that you guys understand all of this field and everything that it comes with, all the exciting information and the great benefits that you can get from it. So stay tuned for more. Okay, and before we get into the good stuff today, you guys know I have to get my admin work out of the way, and that includes reminding you guys about my Patreon account. So Patreon is a platform where you can support your favorite content creators like myself for small amounts every month, and it is so appreciated. However, if you are here just wanting to, give me a listen and get some education from what I'm saying, I totally appreciate you being here, so no worries. If you do want more information on this topic and others, don't forget to check out my website, rosatinutrition.ca, and stay in touch on Facebook and Instagram at Rosati Nutrition. Okay, now for the good stuff of why you are here. Let's talk about nutrigenomics. What is nutrigenomics? And nutrigenomics is a term that refers to the relationship between nutrients, diet, gene expression, and your health. So when we talk about a nutrigenomic profile or protocol, we're looking at your DNA specifically and your genes, your genetics, to see if there are any genetic mutations that would affect how your body is using vitamins and minerals, absorbing them, converting them, detoxifying your body, metabolizing toxins and things like caffeine. It really dives into all the inner workings of how exactly your body works, which is, to me, I think this is so cool. So it's a real awesome way to kind of biohack your life in a sense. So there's no more guessing in terms of, should I take this supplement? Should I not take this supplement? Am I getting enough vitamin A? Are my vitamin D levels okay? How well is my body absorbing these certain things? We're taking the guesswork completely out of that, and we are just straight looking at the answer key that is found in our DNA. And if you don't think that that is really freaking cool, I don't know if we could be friends, because me personally, I think this is mind-blowing how awesome this is. Now let's backtrack a little bit. I first became introduced to this idea of looking at the human genome back when I was in high school. So fun little story. I went to my specific high school because the grade 12 program, we were the only school in our board that had a biotechnology program. And I was fascinated way back in elementary school. So I was like, nope, I am going there. And what it was, we still had our biology and chemistry, but we were taught extra material from like the university level in grade 12. And we also had an extra period during the day where we did some extra research, extra experiments that specifically looked at biotechnology and, human DNA and things like that. Now, unfortunately, if you guys heard my previous episode, a few episodes back, you know that I had mono. So I missed about 5 or 6 weeks of this biotechnology program, which sucked. But looking through that material, one of the things we talked about was the Human Genome Project. Now, this was started in 1990, I believe, and I don't think they finished it until 2000 or so. So it took about 10, 11 years, and they mapped out the entire human genome. Guys, you know how many chromosomes we have? There are so many genes on each chromosome, and within those genes, there are specific SNPs. They're SNPs, but we pronounce them SNPs. And each individual SNP tells you whether you have a mutation for that or not. And each gene has a function. So you have, oh my gosh, so many SNPs per gene, so many genes per chromosome. Like there's a lot of information here. So this can be very overwhelming. There's like over 1 million data points to go through. But if you do know what you're looking for, this can be highly, highly, highly beneficial for you, because you can specifically look at what question you need and find the direct answer, which, like I said, I think is fascinating. Now, I talk about the Human Genome Project because in terms of science, this was pretty recent. I mean, it was only released and completed in, I want to say it was like 2001, which is really not that long ago. So it's a really cool advancement in science and in the biotech field, where we have the human genome mapped out exactly perfectly as it should be. And we have the means to do genetic testing and genetic evaluation to compare our DNA to the ideal, perfect working genome. And through that, we can see if we have any mutations which could be leading to our health concerns, chronic illnesses, leading to, higher risk of diseases. So there's a ton of stuff that goes on in this. And like I said, it's like looking directly at the answer key, which who doesn't want a little shortcut in life? I mean, life is hard enough as is. So if we don't have to have all these questions and guesswork surrounding our health and we can go straight to the answer, to me, that is well worth it. So let's talk a little bit about how one gets started with this. So first, what you would do is you would order a DNA genetic testing kit. And I think the two main ones, or most common and better ones, are the Ancestry DNA kit, the health one, and 23andMe. Now, last time I checked when I'm recording this, the Ancestry plus health one was no longer available, but the 23andMe one is. So I personally have used the 23andMe one, and I found out a lot of information from there. Okay, I think it was well worth every penny spent. So there's two options here in Canada for the 23andMe kit. There is the cheaper one, which shows you like your ancestry and your genetic traits, like you likely have green eyes and you are likely lactose intolerant, like things like that. And with that, you also get your raw genetic data. The more expensive one has everything that the first one has, but it also gives you a health report, and it tells you, you have one of the genetic mutations for Alzheimer's. You have the gene for type 2 diabetes. You have an increased risk of Parkinson's, of this disease, of that cancer. It tells you a whole bunch. And while this is great, it still doesn't tell you everything. It doesn't tell you how well your body is using vitamins and minerals. It doesn't tell you if you have an MTHFR mutation. It doesn't tell you, how your body is detoxifying or producing antioxidants. The only way you find that out is if you browse through your raw data and know specifically which SNP you're looking for, or if you upload your data to a database, a third-party website, and that will go through everything for you. Now, the problem with that is you have to pay your $20, $40, $100, whatever it may be, depending on the site. And yes, they will give you a report of, you have this mutation, that mutation, but it doesn't tell you what to do with that afterwards. It's kind of like, here's all this extra information. Now you got to do the work to figure out what you have to do to rectify that and to deal with that mutation. So that in itself is a little bit of a disadvantage, but we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. I want to backtrack a little bit, and when I was talking to you guys about these little mutations, what does that mean? What does a mutation look like? So remember I told you we have a chromosome, and then we have a gene inside of that, and then we have a SNP inside of that, right? So each SNP each gene is made up of A's, C's, T's, and G's. Now these each stand for a nucleotide. They each have a name, but it's easier to just remember A, C, T, G. Now, our genes are made up of clusters of these A, C, T, and Gs. And if you guys remember, our DNA is a spiral helix of two sides. So RNA has one strand and DNA has two intertwined strands. Now, there is an A, a C, a T, or a G on either side of that strand. And that's how, they bond together and we have our DNA. So a SNP is when, let's say, it's supposed to be an A and a G, and it's a G and a G in actual fact. Or let's say it's supposed to be, an A and a T matched together, but you have a T and a T, or an A and a T. Or let's say you're supposed to have a C and a C, and you have a G and a C. Anytime that there is a different letter, that is a mutation. Okay, so there are two kinds of mutations, which I don't really want to get into. You really just have to know a mutation is when there is a letter there that shouldn't be there. It should be an A, but there's a G. It should be a C, but there's a T, and different versions of that. So when you were looking at your genetic data and you're looking through your raw data and you upload it to a third-party site, it's looking at these ACTG pairs and seeing where there is a letter out of place. That is a mutation that could be causing some side effects or symptoms in your life. Now, does one letter really make that much of a difference? Unfortunately, yes, it can. This is not always the case. And in some SNPs, there are worse mutations to have than others. So let's look at my MTHFR mutation as an example. So there are different, like I said, there's different variations of mutations, and some are worse than others. So for the MTHFR one, for example, if we're looking at the SNP RS1801133, again, sounds very confusing. Just stick with me here. So if we're looking at that specific SNP, you should have a CC, okay? So each side of your DNA strand should be a C bonded to a C. Now, if you have a C and a T, that is one form of a mutation. That is a heterozygous mutation, and you likely have some decreased function in your MTHFR gene. However, if you have a T and a T, remember it's supposed to be CC, but if you have a T and a T, that is the worst form of the mutation. Not the worst thing in the world, but is the worst form than CT, right? And that means that you likely have 10 to 20% of your genetic function for that gene. So I unfortunately have the TT version, meaning my body does not convert folate into its usable form very easily or very efficiently, meaning that I am always likely deficient in folate or vitamin B9. Now, 23andMe didn't directly tell me that. I had to go searching through my genetic data for that, which is why I'm telling you guys that, the 23andMe report isn't the end all be all. You do need to do some additional research after that. Now, what do I do? Is this the end of the world? Absolutely not. If I didn't know about it, it could be pretty bad. It could lead to things like miscarriage, inability to get pregnant, having a child with neural tube defects. This is a pretty serious genetic mutation. However, if all I have to do is I take a supplement for it every day. I do try to eat folate-rich foods, but unfortunately in my diet, no matter what I do, it's not enough. And I find it very hard to get enough folate. And I did try taking a supplement, and I did automatically notice a lot of benefit, like more cognitive clarity, ability to focus a lot easier. So for me, taking a supplement was the best route because I do have the worst mutation. So like I said, the only reason I know about that is because I looked through my genetic data for that. Nobody told me, which is where that third-party testing can really come in handy, especially if you're working alongside a practitioner who knows what they're talking about and who knows how to read this genetic data, which, if you guys don't follow me on social media, I am offering this as a service now. So I will work with you one-on-one. If you have already had genetic testing either through Ancestry DNA or 23andMe, you can contact me I'll sign you up for this other platform that I'm using, Nutrigenomics, which is completely safe. It's, I trust it 100%. You can only make an account through a practitioner. So in this case would be me. We make an account for you, you upload your raw data, and then it sends this data through its own database and sends you and I a report based on what that says. Now, we both read that report, we would both go over it together and come up with a specific and unique nutrigenomic protocol for you. Your protocol is not going to be the same as someone else's, okay? Because this is based off of your DNA, your genetic data, and that's what makes you unique and completely your own person. Now, the report that I get working with Nutrigenomics is a pretty in-depth report. It's about a 30-page long report that you get, and it tells you a bunch of different metrics. It looks at a bunch of different genetic SNPs, and it tells you whether you have a heterozygous mutation or a homozygous mutation, how severe this is. It gives you a recommendation after that, how to, manage this mutation. And it also gives you a scientific credibility report. So if just one study has, said that this mutation causes X, Y, and Z, it might not be as reliable as a study or as a report that has hundreds of thousands of studies that say, yeah, if you have this mutation, this is going to happen, right? So it's on a 5-star rating scale, and it'll tell you that, okay, having this mutation may cause these side effects, having this mutation will cause these side effects, and you really should do something about it. So I think it's really cool. It's pretty unbiased. And I honestly, I've been going through my own report. I have mine right here, and wow. I thought I found out a lot through my 23andMe report, and no, this tells me so much. So let me give you a quick little example of some of the reports that you can expect in this large 30-page report. Okay, so I'm just reading off of my own report what it told me. It tells you your vitamin A levels, how well your body converts vitamin A into its active and usable form. Same thing for vitamin B6, folate, choline, vitamin B12, vitamin D, vitamin E, zinc, omega-3 fatty acids. So this is great because this kind of gives you a clue as to which foods you should really be adding into your diet if you are likely deficient in any of these. So I think that's really cool. It kind of gives you a very personalized meal plan. You know how everyone's always arguing keto is better, no, high carb is better, no, high protein is better. Well, this will tell you what's better for you specifically. Cuts the argument right out. It'll also tell you about your antioxidant enzymes, how well your body can create them and use them, how well your body will detoxify environmental toxins, will metabolize estrogen, metabolize caffeine, metabolize glucose. It tells you if you're likely to snack between meals, tells you how your body requires protein. So it'll say, like for me, for example, it tells me that a higher protein diet will make it easier for me to lose weight. But it also tells me that my genetics prefers me to eat carbs, which is 1,000,000% true. I will choose carbohydrates over anything all the time, and not necessarily processed carbohydrates, but just any carbs, like fruits and veggies. Like I love carbs, but in order for me to lose weight, I should be eating more protein, which my body does not naturally gravitate to. So that's something I need to work on. It also will tell you your IL-6 activation, and this is involved in autoimmune conditions. It's the inflammatory response and how well your body turns it on and then is able to turn it off. It'll also tell you things like tendon or ligament injury, how likely you are to be injured this way. Achilles tendon injury, to be specific. Like this goes real deep in. Tells you your salt sensitivity. It'll tell you your, wow, this is tiny writing, paraoxonase activity. It'll also tell you CoQ10 enzyme levels, so how well your body can produce this enzyme and use it. It'll tell you if you're lactose intolerant. It'll also tell you your microbial balance in your intestines. So if you are likely or unlikely to have an imbalance in your gut based on your genetics, which is so cool. And it also tells you in here, endurance training is best for you. It'll tell you your aerobic capacity. It'll tell you, if you are trying to lose weight, you should do endurance exercises versus strength exercises versus like short burst exercises. So I think this is really, really cool. It'll tell you your endurance potential, muscle soreness, your glucose response to exercise. So if you're someone who's dealing with, glucose issues, glucose insensitivity, things like that, then it'll tell you that. It'll also tell you things about your cardiovascular health. So your body's response to saturated fat, C-reactive protein level. It'll tell you how likely you are to have the good cholesterol versus bad cholesterol, and if you're predisposed to having high cholesterol levels. So there is a lot in here, like a lot. It'll tell you stuff about your brain, your dopamine function, cannabis response, serotonin production. Okay, so I think you guys get the point, but this is a lot of really good information in here. So I highly, highly recommend, looking into this. If you want more information on it, I am posting a ton of content regarding Nutrigenomics and the new service that I offer on my Instagram. But you can also check out my website for the actual rundown on there and to book with me, which I hope, to hear from a lot of you guys and to be able to help you guys understand your health and your body so much better. I think that there is so much about the human body. Even though we have mapped out the human genome, I think there's still so much that we don't understand about our own bodies. But if we can start to understand what the science has already understood, I think, it'll give us that greater connection with our bodies and with ourselves, right? We are not independent of our bodies. We are our bodies. I view it as a very holistic approach. So anytime that we can learn something about ourselves and our bodies, I think, why not? Go for it, right? And if this will eliminate us living with chronic illness and symptoms and side effects and not living optimally, then why not go for it? If you guys have been listening to the show, you know that my number one thing is living optimally for your own body and your own life. So what does that mean for you? What diet do you need to eat for you to live your best life? What lifestyle choices do you have to make for you to live your best life? Things like that. And that answer is not going to be the same for everybody. Just look at your DNA. It's different for everybody, so your action plan is going to be different than somebody else's, and that's okay. But I want to help you find out what your action plan should be. So I think I've talked enough about genetics and understanding our genetics, and using our genetics to our own benefit, again, to live optimally. So if you guys enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to rate the podcast, share this episode with your loved ones, with your friends, and for more information, please sign up for the newsletter on my website. That's rosatinutrition.ca. Scroll down on the homepage and you can subscribe to the newsletter where I send out a bunch of goodies and a bunch of fun information. So I hope to hear from you guys soon, and until the next episode, peace.